I have a question for all of you, and I definitely don't mean this rhetorically. Is there anything more vile and disgusting and disheartening than a politician? Truly, I mean that with all sincerity. I want your thoughts that every single time I look at these people who are elected by the public to help their community, to help their state, to help their nation, and yet when you dive into it, they do nothing but self-serve. They acquire power, they line their pockets, and yet we're supposed to believe that they're here for us when time and time again, all we get is information about how they're absolute scumbags. I have to be honest with you, it took me about, I don't know, at this time, 8, 9, 10 different attempts to film this video because my blood pressure is too high. In all reality, I had planned for you a completely different video, and then I started seeing some of the newest reports because we're in the season of getting financial disclosures from elected politicians, and some of these numbers are eye-watering. As I was sifting through all of this to see if I could see some interesting trends, themes, I found one thing that stood out to me, and it makes me want to absolutely puke. It is with my great pleasure that I would like to congratulate Representative Ilhan Omar on being nominated for one of the biggest political scumbags of 2025. If you missed out on what I'm talking about how this publicly elected politician has been speed running the game of capitalism. In the past 6 years, she has potentially gone from being worth, I don't know, negative $45,000 to the current day potential estimate of $30 million. In the meantime, did she become a phenomenal trader, investor, tech entrepreneur? Nope, she's just a politician, folks. Now, before we get into all the nitty-gritty details of how she pulled off this miracle of capitalism, let's take a step back and really appreciate what's going on. For the longest time, Nancy Pelosi was the queen of Wall Street. Even though she never really technically worked in Wall Street, she made a lot of money off of it. As I'm filming this, she's worth estimated about $265 million, which is pretty good considering the fact that her average yearly salary as a career politician has been less than $200,000. Now, for those of you who don't have a calculator at home, let me save you the trouble and let you know that math ain't mathin', which explains why she gets so incredibly defensive whenever she's asked about her vast forms of wealth.
This afternoon, President Trump mentioned you, and he made an allegation about your investments. I want to roll that clip and then give you a chance to respond.
Nancy Pelosi became rich by having inside information. She made a fortune with her husband, and I think that's disgraceful. Nancy Pelosi should be investigated because she has the highest return of anybody practically in the history of Wall Street, save a few.
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail.
Oh yeah? Name one.
Confidence it instills in the American people. Don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it, my husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here.
So basically,
hey man, it's not me, it's my husband. Anyone doing insider trading should be looked at, but once again, it's not me.
And obviously, these are just normal returns that anyone on Wall Street could do if they, I guess, just marry a politician who's on all the right committees and has very impactful information and is always seemingly in the right place at the right time. Anyway, I digress. Now, if you watch any of my shows, quick shameless plug, Monday to Friday, 9 to 11, I hope to see you there. It's a free live show where we all degenerately trade together. Of course, we dive into Pelosi's trades, but every so often, there's other politicians who are really coming for her crown, and they're trying to say, no, I'm the best alleged insider trader. And one of the recent ones who's very rapidly becoming one of my favorites is Coach Tommy Tuberville, a senator from Alabama who used to be a coach, and he came into office worth about $1 million, and now he's 5x that. And if you look at his trades, and only do this if you want to scream, you're going to realize that a lot of the companies that he chooses to buy and sell have a lot of connections to the committees he's sitting on. And look this up yourself. I swear this is my favorite thing. I promise you this is real, but feel free to fact check me. He's on the committee for agriculture, and he day trades trades corn futures. And you're telling me that's not insider trading? And just to be clear, this is not a male or a female thing. This is not a right or a left thing. In my humble opinion, and I would argue that the data suggests this as well, they're all equally scumbags. If you're watching this and you think I'm picking on your favorite politician, just understand that I didn't have enough time to make a video to make fun of all of them. I don't know why, but I find some of them to be a little bit more irksome than others. For example, if you have some sort of right-leaning capitalistic Republican who's always screaming, invest in the market, let the economy grow, and he's making money in the market, okay, that kind of makes sense. It's somewhat in line. But then we have other people who are uniquely against capitalism, hate the ultra wealthy, and don't think anyone should have more than $10 in their bank account. And then when you start to look at their numbers, it's a little confusing when they become worth so much. For example, AOC recently in the news as it comes to her own wealth. For the purpose of this video, I decided to dive into it, see if I could fact check some of the things going on. And the first thing I found is apparently she's actually not worth that much, estimated $49,000. Even though it was reported she's worth up to $30 million, AOC claps back after MAGA World runs wild with claims she is worth $30 million. And then I looked at her financial disclosures and she really isn't worth that much, maybe $45,000. But on top of that, she has some debt. So really it could net out to be nothing. But then when I started diving a bit more into it, I got confused. AOC blows past a financial disclosure deadline, keeps fiance's finances off the books. So she's not being truthful with us, the people who elected her, who she allegedly represents, even though she's saying, hey man, I'm not doing anything wrong. Well, if you're not, why are you not giving us your disclosure? And if you have no issue giving us your disclosure, why are you hiding your finances numbers? It's one of those sayings that if there's smoke, there's fire. And if you had nothing to hide, why are you taking all these steps to seemingly hide something? Anyway, I know, I digress. We're talking about Pelosi, Tuberville, AOC, and that's not even the star of the show. Those people have already gotten their accolades for being the biggest political scumbag. We have a new nominee that we have to give the proper representation to, and I'm talking about Representative Ilhan Omar. And you might be thinking to yourself, why this time around? Why do we get to look at her right now? And the answer is because the numbers on her financial disclosure report are freaking crazy. Check this out. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. This just came out hot off the press. Apparently, she has some positions technically through her quote unquote marriage, and that's a whole story in itself. One might be worth up to $5 million, another investment up to $25 million. She has some other funds, but not as much. Those two alone, minimum $6 million, up to $30 million. Absolutely crazy. And there's a lot of information in here, so I figured, hey, why not go over to AI and have it crunch all of the numbers for me? And this is crazy. Snapshot today, most recent following. Basically, it's talking about her husband's disclosure of Rose Lake Capital, anywhere from 5 to 25 million, and then another business about 1 to 5, and then everything else is pretty much peanuts in comparison. So that's the numbers that you have a person who's arguing against the ultra wealthy, against this form of capitalism, and thinks that whenever you have these types of numbers, you should be giving it away to everyone else. But these are huge jumps because we can look at it. I mean, shout out to AI, by the way. 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, nothing, zilch, nada, goose egg. Boom, we get these numbers and a huge spike in net worth. So I'll be going over this in a second. Feel free to read this. Feel free to take a screenshot. But what you really need to know is the bottom line right here. From 2019 to 2023, disclosures show relatively modest personal finances with student loan debt and small retirement bank balances and growing but still small spouse business stakes. And then out of nowhere, like magic, the way it happens in politics, the most recent filing, even AI is saying, dude, this is a sharp jump in spouse-owned business ventures, potentially worth up to $30+ million. And you want to know what's really crazy about this is already the comparisons that people are putting together. What is weird about Representative Omar's wealth is she appears to be following the Pelosi playbook. Obviously, quick round of applause. Pelosi's husband also was a venture capitalist. Nancy and Paul Pelosi also own a winery in California. I'm sure it's just a coincidence though. Me too. And really, just to tie this all together, just remember, if you have money, if you're working to make money, if you're working to better the world around of you and take advantage of the best economic system known to man, capitalism, well, according to Omar, you might just kind of be a scumbag.
Recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, this budget resolution isn't about fiscal responsibility. It's about enriching the ultra wealthy and betraying working people. It's about gutting Medicaid and SNAP so that the rich can continue to hoard more tax breaks. These cuts do not make our country stronger. They make it sicker, hungrier, and more unfair. But this time, Republicans are not even pretending to pay for it. Senate Republicans are rewriting the rules and inventing fake budget math to claim that these tax cuts will not cost us anything. In truth, they cost the American people $7 trillion in total. All of this is being done to pave the way for a Trump term built on fear, lawlessness, and vengeance. President Trump is firing public servants, slashing critical programs, and enacting chaotic tariffs that will raise costs. This chaotic administration is trying to drag us into a recession, and instead of stopping it, congressional Republicans are acting as a willing accomplices.
Nothing like fighting for the little guy and against the ultra wealthy when you yourself are in the top 1% of everyone alive today and in the top 99.9999% of the population ever. So like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. Seemingly something is so corrupt in the US political system, and most likely globally, but I'm a little bit more familiar with the US, that as soon as they get a little bit of taste of the power, a little bit of taste of money, they just go absolutely deranged, sell their soul, and do nothing but try to get more of it. If you ask me, it is despicable. Something needs to change, but of course, this is just one pissed off guy's opinions. I'll catch you in the next one.